hello, this is Don.
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
And today we're looking back over the best of 2025.
So, over the course of the next week, we're going to share with you some of our favorite podcasts, some of the ones most enjoyed by others. And we want to wish everyone a happy holiday, a happy healthy season as we close out 2025 and launch into the new year. So sit back, enjoy our show. Please share this with others. We're glad you've been here on this journey with us.
And number 170, it was when we were talking about Parkinson with Rich London.
Yeah, that was a great conversation. You've known Rich for a while. My parents actually enjoyed a cruise, I believe, with him where he spoke, and everything Parkinson's from a man who understands it because he has Parkinson's.
Well, and remember he told that really good goofy story
Oh,
about the squirrel
he's got
and
a
that,
great
so you'll
opening
you'll hear
story.
that one.
So
So
great
be ready.
speaker.
Yep.
Enjoy.
I'm going to ask you a question. Are you more like a skunk or a squirrel? Let me explain. I recently read a story about a farmer who was having a squirrel problem. So he set out catch and release traps. One day he heard a noise. Bam! The trap caught a squirrel. The squirrel was running around the inside of the trap, bouncing back and forth, literally driving himself nuts. The next day he heard a noise again. Bam! This time the trap caught a skunk. What the skunk did was he walked around the perimeter of the inside of the trap, checking it out, walked back to the food that lured him there, had his lunch, started cleaning himself, grooming, licking his paws and his face, reached outside through the trap, pulled in sticks and twigs, and took a nap. So my question to you is, the next time you face challenges in your life, are you going to be more like a skunk or a squirrel? My advice is that we should all be more like the skunk and learn how to make the best out of our bad situations.
All righty. Well, hello, this is Don.
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
And this is podcast number 170 today. And today we're talking with Rich London, an accomplished businessman, entrepreneur, author, and motivational speaker. But today we really want to really focus on his lifelong journey through 22 years as a cancer survivor, and also his life through Parkinson's over the last 20 years. Uh, Rich has written quite a few handbooks, books, a handbook for life and a handbook for happiness. 10 things every person would want to know about Parkinson's. 10 things every caregiver must know, having helped many people achieve goals overcoming obstacles and enjoying their lives. You know, Rich has traveled across the United States and Canada as a keynote speaker, inspiring others with personal stories overcoming challenges in his life. At age 19, he had a life-changing automobile accident that put him in and out of hospitals for over 10 months. In 2003, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and 2 years after his cancer diagnosis, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Despite those challenges, Rich has started three computer companies, has black belts in multiple martial arts, and his commercial pilot license. Rich's biggest message to others is that regardless of life's challenges, everyone is in control of their own health and happiness. And of course, becoming a skunk too, I believe. Isn't that the part of
Yeah.
that too?
Welcome, Rich.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, you talk about when you first got your Parkinson's disease. I'd like to know a little bit more about that and kind of how you felt about it, because we've had to celebrate through a father and what he went through.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what went on for you and how you handle it.
Well, I was 49 years old when I was
Mm.
first diagnosed.
Wow.
49 is considered young onset
Mhm.
for Parkinson's disease. At the time, I knew nothing about it, was extremely concerned, started researching it. I was really worried. I didn't know how much longer I could be working. I didn't know if my then 13-year-old daughter, if I could ever walk her down the aisle at her wedding. And I didn't know if my future yet to be born grandchildren would just consider me the shaky old man. So it was something that was quite shocking. And like you had mentioned, it came 2 years after my cancer diagnosis. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I did get to the point where I didn't want to go to my doctor for my annual visits because I kept getting bad news. But yeah, it was quite a shock.
And you did a lot of you went beyond the regular kind of medical treatments too with if I remember, I we talked some years ago about you went overseas for some things. Is
Well,
that correct?
what I so without getting on a soapbox and disturbing too much,
Okay,
um,
that's fine.
I have a general feeling about Western medicine that Western medicine treats the disease, not the patient.
Mhm.
Uh,
And I was on carbidopa levodopa, which is the gold standard medicine that doctors prescribe for Parkinson's.
Mhm.
And every time they kept raising the dosage, I kept getting dyskinesia. Now, what is dyskinesia? If you're familiar with Michael J. Fox and other people with Parkinson's, the flailing arms, that is not a symptom of the disease. That is a symptom of the medication. So when the doctor, every time I saw him, he would continue to raise my dosage. And I realized he had nothing that he could do except give me this medicine until it got to the point where it didn't help anymore because the medicine
mm,
doesn't stop the disease, it just hides the symptoms.
Mhm.
And then he would recommend DBS, deep brain stimulation. And I did not want to be considering brain surgery. So I started researching and I found a Tibetan herb for Parkinson's. And I am quite the unusual Parkinson's patient, not the typical Parkinson's patient. And in that I got on the herb, this was 6 years into my Parkinson's when I was taking 7.5 pills a day of
Mhm.
carbidopa. And in 3 months, weaned myself off of all Western medication with this
Wow.
Tibetan herb. And then 3 years later, weaned myself off the herb. Now I am back on levodopa. This is 20 years into it, but I only take one pill a day.
Wow.
wow. Yeah, I've watched you on Facebook with the. I mean, I saw you bought a new truck and you went camping. You've done you. So today you're how would you say you're doing today?
Well, here's my advice for anybody. And I would say not only with Parkinson's, but with any chronic disease, especially any kind of neurologic disease, you have to keep moving as much as possible. You have to keep yourself active. Um, my original neurologist 20 years ago told me it's use it or lose it.
Mhm.
And Parkinson specifically shuts down the autonomic nervous system, and your body kind of stops functioning. And the only way around that, the only thing that they have found to be what they call neuroprotective is intense physical exercise.
Mhm.
Stay out, stay active, keep moving as much as you can. Exaggerate your movements. If you're going to go out for a walk, take long strides, reach your arms really far. You're going to think, the person with Parkinson's is going to think, well, this is really weird. I'm exaggerating and I'm looking like, a toy soldier marching. But people around you, they'll only see you walking normally or even subnormally, but because you can't tell that your body is shutting down, you have to
Mhm.
push against it every day.
Yeah. Yeah, like you, Don and I look to alternative medical treatments because, Western medicine often treats symptoms and doesn't get to the root cause of things and the side effects that come about with it. So I know when my father was diagnosed and he jumped right on board with the, traditional medical pathway, my mind was going, oh, should we look into other things? And that was not his path. And, I had to let them make their choices that way. But, it's a powerful statement to hear you say, 20 years later after a diagnosis. And yeah, talking to you here, it's not obvious that you have Parkinson's. And as an occupational therapist, I can pick people out pretty quickly because Parkinson's is often diagnosed so late in this game because there's not, a specific test for it. It's diagnosed by symptoms that I see so many people that, are not diagnosed for quite some time. So I'm kind of curious, backing up to your early diagnosis, kind of what led you. Um, were you seeing symptoms as far as initially?
I I was referred to a neurologist by my primary care physician who at one of my annual physicals noticed bradykinesia. Bradykinesia is where there's a stiffening of muscles, and he would like try and move my arm, and he'd feel a pushback, a pullback. Um, and then he referred me to a neurologist, and the neurologist, like, basically the only way they could diagnose it at the time, DAT scans had just come out, but they really hadn't started using them.
Mhm.
They put you on carbidopa levodopa, and if you respond and it reduces symptoms, de facto they say you have Parkinson's disease. Because short back then, short of an autopsy where they looked in your brain, there was no way to determine if you had Parkinson's. And I was
Mhm.
not volunteering for an autopsy. um, but in retrospect, when I was diagnosed, I would say I probably had symptoms 7 to 10 years earlier than that.
Oh, wow.
Um, Now, I had an essential tremor, a familial tremor,
Hmm.
since my early 20s. So I was on propranolol, a beta blocker for that. So it's hard to say when the essential tremor was replaced by the Parkinson's tremor because it
Hmm.
was over time.
Hmm.
My initial symptoms, and again, they came on gradually over time, and I knew nothing about Parkinson's, so I didn't even know I had this disease.
Hmm.
But I had balance problems, I had excessive drooling, I had I had a tremor, but like I said, I had had a tremor since my 20s. I had what's called facial masking, which is when people say, well, what's facial masking? I say, think of Muhammad Ali. And that blank stare is what it was. And um, after the diagnosis, it answered a lot of questions. I had my boss at the time. I was working in the computer field. My boss, I'd be sitting in a meeting, and he'd look at me, saying like, "What's going on? You're not even listening to me." And I was. It's just with the blank stare, I was not emoting any connection coming back. So the diagnosis itself explained a lot.
Hmm. Sure. Wow. Yeah, this seems like there's more and more people with that early onset Parkinson's, from Michael J. Fox to other people as well. Because I know as an occupational therapist, you typically see the typical onset age is 65 or older. But
Right.
just seeing so much more of that because my dad was 64 diagnosed. So right there.
Your
Um,
dad was a great guy, by the way.
yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
He sure was. Um,
Well, I was kind of curious as to any thoughts, if you've done research on it, is there any thoughts as to kind of what could be causing it? Because I mean, like I say, I know myself, I've seen a lot of people coming down with it, lately, and it's getting worse and worse as you go along.
That To me, that's one of the biggest frustrating parts of it is they don't know any single cause. Now, I am going to say this because I've been around the disease a long time. I've seen and known a lot of people with the disease. Everybody's manifestation of Parkinson's is a little bit different. There is no one cause. There's no virus that causes Parkinson's.
Mm.
The doctors feel that there is a genetic component, there is an environmental component. Um, People exposed to pesticides and farmers and whatever else seem to have Parkinson's more than other people. It does, to a degree, they say, where they feel runs in families. So the best way I've heard it described, and again, they still don't know a root cause, but they say there is a genetic component that can be triggered by an environmental component that makes the person more susceptible to it. The interesting thing with me, I have a brother 2 years younger than I am, who was diagnosed 5 years after I was.
Oh.
My father probably had undiagnosed Parkinson's. He had the tremor, but I had, like I said, the familial tremor. But he had, in retrospect, I saw he had a symptom called micrographia, which is where when you're writing anything out, the letters get smaller and smaller across the page. He was never diagnosed with Parkinson's. Um, he passed away from recurring incidences of his prostate cancer coming back. But my aunt, my grandmother, my niece and nephew, my son, my cousin, all have a tremor. But my brother and I are the
Wow.
only two who have actually been diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I remember hearing that when my father was diagnosed because we didn't have anybody in our family in his, with the diagnosis of it. And, it's kind of interesting because I've heard that it's common in families. So, but like you,
I've an interesting thing. A friend of mine who has since passed away here in Charlotte, he's 10 years older than me, was in Vietnam. He has a twin brother. My friend who was in Vietnam, exposed to Agent Orange,
Mhm,
got Parkinson's. His twin brother never did.
mhm. So like you said, that genetic component and then the environmental factors that
Right.
can trigger it. So yeah. Um,
Well, I was kind of curious as you had the cancer diagnosis, and had you come out of that as far as a full recovery, or because I mean, imagine that's a shock, go through all of that and feel like you're doing better, and then have that come up. How did were you out of that recovery from the cancer when you
Yeah,
got it?
with prostate cancer, typically, basically, that's 22 years ago, and still is pretty much three choices of treatment.
mhm.
You can do radiation, you can do radical prostatectomy surgery, get rid of it, or because prostate cancer is typically a slow-growing cancer, they do nothing and wait and see how it goes and how it progresses. If someone is 70 years old and is diagnosed with prostate cancer, they'll probably do wait and see and do nothing. And they'll probably pass away of something else before the cancer gets to them. With me, I just wanted to get it done. I was 47 when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I just wanted to get it done as quickly as possible. And my choice was get it out of my body surgically. Um, for me, there's side effects and everything else about not having a prostate that I have to live with, but I've been cancer free, and doctors typically at the 5 year mark pronounce you cancer free. And um, my father, incidentally, was 65 when he had his prostate cancer diagnosed. I was 40, I think it was. Um, and his prostate cancer, I think, actually saved my life because when he was diagnosed, he went to me and my other two brothers and said, you guys need to get your PSAs checked. Typically, medically, doctors didn't recommend PSAs until age 50. Well, I started having my PSA done at 45, I guess it was. And because my PSA went up at age 47, my doctor sent me to a urologist for a biopsy. Had my father not had prostate cancer, and had I not started the PSAs earlier, the cancer would have grown for 3 more years before it was found.
Sure.
So now the other side of it, my father had surgery. Surgery wasn't complete. A few years later, his cancer came back. He had additional treatments. His cancer came back, and my father eventually passed away from prostate cancer. Um, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
I can pass that same information about but I've had different heart issues, heart attacks and things that I have to keep passing along to my kids to think about this, take care of sugars
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I was
Yeah.
kind of curious, did you do anything as far as diet with your diagnosis or with the Parkinson's or either one for that matter, I guess?
With the cancer, no, it was just the surgery, get it done, get it out of me. They obviously apparently got it completely, took care of it, and that was fine. With the Parkinson's, I told you I um, went on, did the Tibetan herb. My diet wound up changing a little bit, mainly because with carbidopa levodopa, the way that it works is when you have a protein in your meal, it blocks the absorption of levodopa.
Oh,
And so when you're taking it, you're supposed to avoid high protein meals 30 minutes plus before or after taking the levodopa. So I would find that I actually went to a Brazilian steakhouse once, and without realizing it, and just they just bring the meat to you and carve it at the table, and I got physically sick. I
oh
mean,
my.
I got physically sick from eating so much protein. However, when I went on the Tibetan herb and stopped the levodopa, I found that my body worked better when I fed it properly. Higher
Wow.
protein meals, eating a higher protein meal earlier in the day was better for me. Um, my best breakfast was leftover dinner.
That's the same thing. My naturopathic doctor that they start their that they change the diet, and the first thing they talk about is doing your meal same kind of meal as you have for dinner you do for breakfast.
Yeah.
Vegetables, proteins, all that. So that's good.
Yeah. I do want to bring up one thing because I'm sure your listeners are going to, at least some of them may wonder about this Tibetan herb I talked about.
Sure.
I was extremely, extremely bothered by the fact that I found out that the FDA shut them down and they're no longer in business
Oh,
because they're not a pharmaceutical company. They can't
right.
make pharmaceutical
Wow.
claims. They can't, despite the fact that basically their herb took care of my Parkinson symptoms for 18 years or whatever. They're no longer in business. The FDA shut them down. But for anyone that wants to do research, if they can find something similar, the primary ingredient in that herb was rhododendron, the flower.
Okay. Okay.
Wow. So and is that why you're on the drug now because you can't get that? Is that
Well, um, okay, so here comes my story.
okay?
Uh, and I will say this, and backing up uh, and this goes to the philosophy in my books, whatever, and it's why my thoughts, why am I where I'm at right now, health wise,
Mm-hmm.
given everything I've been through. It is without a doubt, in my mind, attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Attitude to start with. You don't give up. You don't be a victor, not a victim in life. Don't be subject to the oppression of some outside disease. From the very beginning, I defined Parkinson's disease, and listen to these words because every word is chosen specifically for a reason. It's a degenerative neurological disease for which Western medicine has no known cure. Not that there's not other ways to cure it or reduce the effects of Parkinson's, but Western medicine doesn't know how to do it.
Hmm.
And I refused from the very beginning to listen to the doctors when they said that I would degrade every year and it would just keep eating at my brain and that I wouldn't be able to do this or that. In my mind, I control my health and my body and my functionality, not the disease, not some doctor.
That's wonderful.
That's
That is,
powerful.
yeah.
It brings me back to your story you told of the squirrel and the skunk. I love that. Just, life can throw all kinds of things at us. And yeah, it really is. Our attitude makes such a huge difference. I see that every day working in rehab centers. I'll get I see people coming out of the hospital who need therapy, and I'll get their diagnosis list. And sometimes it'll be so long. I'm like, oh my gosh, this person's going to be bedridden and can't move. And I go in there and they can. And it's really that mindset makes a huge difference. I mean, I see that all the time. And
one of the things I did when I wrote the first book, a handbook for life, practical guide to success and happiness. I wrote the book, and it was all about mindset and about attitude and everything else. And you mentioned some of the accomplishments of my life. I've done a lot. I've enjoyed a lot. Gotten around. Um, I did a word search in Word after I wrote the first draft of my book. And I was shocked to find that I did not mention the word cancer or Parkinson's once in the entire book.
oh, wow.
Wow.
Because to me, that has nothing to do with how I'm going to succeed and enjoy my life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm curious, with these diagnoses, did you always kind of have that optimistic way of looking at life, or was there some kind of turning point for yourself, in accepting these things?
I think the turning point was actually when I was 19 years old. And I was hit in a motorcycle, hit by a car, spent the next 10 months in and out of hospitals, multiple surgeries, having nightmares, wondering what I could have done differently if I left the house 5 minutes earlier, if I left the house 5 minutes later, what could I have done? And the reality was, I realized that there was absolutely nothing I could have done to prevent the accident. I was going down the street, some guy came up the other way, turned into me without signaling. That was it. And it was life changing for me. My original major in college was law enforcement. I wanted to go into the FBI. I wanted to be a special agent. But after the accident, I didn't know if I'd ever walk right again and wound up changing my major to computers. But at that young age, realizing that these major life changing events happen that you have no control over, you have the only choice you have is figure out how you're going to live with it. When I was doing the speaking, I would go. So the book, A Handbook for Life, is about the mindset for success and happiness, and you're in control of your own happiness and setting goals and all that stuff. And not surprisingly, I was uh, welcomed into the Parkinson's community with my message, and I would travel around to different symposiums, whatever, as keynote speaker. And I met a young gentleman, very young one, said, I think he was in his mid-20s, who had Parkinson's for 2 years, who had already given up on life and was infirmed, not moving around, and it broke my heart. But the only difference between him and me was the attitude. He didn't even try. So again, I say to anybody with not only Parkinson's, any chronic, long-term chronic disease,
Mhm.
decide to be the victor, not the victim. Decide to get out and push against it. I've said this repeatedly for the last 20 years, and only somebody with who experiences a chronic condition, I think, will understand this. But I have to physically and mentally push against Parkinson's every moment of every day of my life. This disease is going to progress whether I do something about it or not. Um, so one of the things, and I'll bring this up, and I don't know, Don, you might be asking, what am I doing these days?
Yeah.
There's a Parkinson specific non-contact boxing program called Rock Steady Boxing. And I'll even give them a plug with their website. It's rocksteadyboxing.org. They're out of Indianapolis. They came, I think it was about 2007.
Hmm.
They were formed.
Give me
And
the address again, because I'm going to write it down here and put it up there on this.
certainly rocksteadyboxing.org.
Okay. I want to make sure to get that up there because I think that's important. I've seen that too, but anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Yeah, it's they now have, I think it's like 900 gyms internationally that do the program.
Mhm.
And I originally started, I got involved with them in 2014. And like you had said, I have a background in the martial arts. So physically moving and everything has always been part of my background, which is one of the things that I think contributes to why I'm doing so well physically now
Sure. Sure.
with the Parkinson's. But I started going to Rocksteady as what they call a boxer, and then I just fell in love with the program. I actually got certified as a coach in 2018, not for pay or remuneration, but I now at least 2 days a week go to the local in Charlotte Levine Jewish Community Center
Mhm.
and volunteer as a volunteer coach twice a week, um, for partially to keep me moving, very much so for the social camaraderie of being able to stay plugged in with the Parkinson's community, and also to give back and help and see what this movement does. I've seen people come into the program in walkers, and a year later, their walkers are gone. I mean, it's just intense physical exercise and movement. And there's dance for Parkinson's. There's LSVT big, which is a an approved therapy you can actually get
Mhm.
recommended through your neurologist
Mhm.
for movement, for voice and stuff. There's a lot of things out there, but Rocksteady is what I've kind of latched on to.
Sure, sure. Yeah, there's been a lot of things come about. I mean, I went to school in the early 90s in college for my degree in occupational therapy, and so much more has come about of understanding of the disease, but these programs that do make a huge difference because, yeah, I tell anybody I work with Parkinson's, you can't overexercise when it comes to Parkinson's. The more you
No,
do, the
absolutely.
challenging your balance, the best way to improve balance is to challenge it. And you had a way head start with all the martial arts you do because yeah, obviously there's a lot of balance involved in that. So
Do
yeah.
you
Right.
do you take on Muhammad Ali's lighter than a feather? How do you remember that statement he used to say,
Uh,
light as a
Fly like a
feather?
butterfly, sting like a bee.
Yeah, yeah. Is that your new motto? Or
Yeah, you're right.
But how wonderful that you give back. I mean, how inspiring to go, to a program like that and here's someone who's been through it yourself with Parkinson's. You understand it better than anyone else does, right? As a coach to see that's a powerful impact for a progressive disease for people to actually make
Oh yeah.
progress.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
so I guess just real kind of talk a little bit about your books. What you started the first one with the handbook, but then you've taken it further than that. What's your what's your idea about why do that? Why add more to the story, I guess.
It really it goes back to after my cancer diagnosis and after my Parkinson's, and I stopped and I looked around and I said, why is it that I enjoy and continue to enjoy all these things? I was very active in the martial arts, certified scuba diver, flew airplanes, and out continuing to enjoy life. And I saw people around me diagnosed with the same disease who were shutting down and scared and holding their lives back. And I wanted to share my ideas and philosophies on attitude and on, you know, getting out and setting goals in life. So I wrote my first book, A Handbook for Life, which I'm retired now. My website's shut down. If anybody's interested, I guess they can go to Amazon and get it because I don't have any physical copies of the book. A Handbook for Life, Richard London. I guess if they do that, they'll be able to find it.
Well,
Um,
I'll put it up
oh,
on your
appreciate it.
stuff up there too, so
Appreciate it. Then
that'll go.
my when I was going around with the speaking, I realized I wanted to have something easy to like a handbook size thing to be able to give out and give to people and share for free. So there's an ebook available, a handbook for happiness, which is a short little read, but it really it's good. I mean, you can read it in one bathroom break. Okay, but it's about philosophy and whatever. And I'll give you a link, Don, that you can put that up and people can download that for free if they
Sure,
want to.
Sure, that would
sure,
be
that would be
great.
great.
Then those two things are general things about attitude and life and that, setting goals and everything else. And I wanted to get something more specific for the Parkinson's community. So I had some audio CDs, one 10 things every person with Parkinson's must know, and 10 things every caregiver must know. And again, my business is shut down. I'll be can't believe this July. I'll be 69 years old. God, I'm old. Um, but I have links I can send you also for that, so people can stream the two audio CDs if they want to. Again, no charge. I'm retired. I'm not here to make money. But that that's those are the I guess quote unquote products that I had out there to help people with, and
Mhm.
that's where I'm at right now.
That's wonderful. I I kind of want to personally thank you for the public speaking that you did because I know that's where my parents met you, Rich. And I'm thinking
Yeah.
it was pretty early on in my dad's diagnosis because for a very long time, you know, he did do exactly as you say. He kept living, he kept wanting to play golf, he kept, you know, and he had a really good quality of life for a long time. Um,
Well,
and
that's where I met your mom and dad was on a Parkinson's cruise in the
that's right.
Caribbean. I was a
That's
guest
right.
speaker. Yeah.
That's right. And I don't remember what year that is, and I don't know that you do because I know you did a lot of speaking back then.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you know, and really what headed to my dad's downfall was COVID. It shut down all the activities, and you talk about the importance of activity. And they lived in
Right.
the 55 plus community, and no longer could he go and do all those things, and that led to his decline cognitively, which. But I want to thank you for all the speaking because I'm sure you have inspired others as well to kind of take charge of their disease in their life, right? And to, like you said, about attitude and you know, be the skunk.
Yeah. Be discussed.
Is there any other things that you want to say to our audience? You know, we have a lot of people who are caregivers, caring for, you know, aging loved ones, and obviously Parkinson's is unfortunately way too common right now.
You bring up caregivers. That's a totally separate thing. It is so important for caregivers to protect themselves and not get burnt out.
Oh, yeah.
The caregiver usually is quite often a spouse, but sometimes a professional caregiver even. They need to protect themselves also. They need to find release. You need to have the ability to have mental and physical release. The biggest thing I can say for a caregiver, don't be afraid to accept outside help.
Yeah.
You don't need to do everything. If you burn out and have health problems, that's not going to help the loved one that you're taking care of.
Exactly.
And that's why, and I mean, I was privileged to be able to see both sides and meet so many people. But yeah, caregivers are special.
Well, thank you so much, Rich. Thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to actually meet you after hearing about you for years.
Yeah.
And so glad, even though you're retired, coming onto our podcast, because what you've written is still, great information and advice and support for all of us out there, right? Even without a diagnosis of Parkinson's. So thank you for joining us. For all of our listeners listening, if you like what you've heard, please leave a comment, give us feedback. We're here to help support you and guide you, whether you are dealing with your own journey, caring for aging loved ones. Please check out our website, focusedhealthyfamily.com, where you can learn more about my series, Ask the OT, learning about Don's work as an EFT tapping practitioner, helping bring down the anxiety, whether you're the person dealing with issues or your loved one is navigating that journey. FocusedHealthyFamily.com is our website. We're also on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family, Instagram at Focused Healthy Family 1. We're on YouTube. If you're listening to this where you listen to podcasts, we also air these with video on YouTube. You can catch us every Thursday where we talk about all kinds of topics and interview wonderful people like Rich London here again. So thank you for joining us today. And remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.